Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Below the Line podcast presented by Wicked Mix Holiday and Winter Editions. If you're scrambling around trying to find a late Christmas present, which, trust me, some people are, including the host of the show that you are watching, or you just want a last-minute stocking stuffer, head on over to moonlightmixes.com. Get your hands on the winter and holiday special editions of Wicked Mix. They won't be here much longer, so make sure you get yours while you can. Our guest today on the show is Mike Burch, the COO of Speedway Motorsports Incorporated. Sir, how are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. My first question for you, sir, is simply this. What is Speedway Motorsports for those that might not know?
Well, we are one of the leading promoters and owners of motorsports facilities across the country. So if you're familiar with the NASCAR schedules, I assume most of this listener base is, most of this audience is, we own Charlotte Motor Speedway, Atlanta Motor Speedway, New Hampshire, Bristol, Nashville Super Speedway, Texas, Las Vegas, Sonoma, Dover. I think I touched them all, but I think we have and North Wilkesboro. We can't forget that one. So we host 15 of the 38 NASCAR races, including an event at Circuit of the Americas, which we don't own, but we do lease that facility in order to host that race. And then we also operate the Performance Racing Network, where we broadcast the Cup races from our facility as well as the Xfinity races. We also own a company that produces a lot of the merchandise that you see there on in the midway in the fan zone when you come to the track, the t-shirts and hats. So we print, we embroider. And then we also own US Legends Cars, which manufactures a lot of the cars that many of the stars in the Cup Series grew up racing and got their start, kind of the Little League Baseball, the Pop Warner football of motorsports. So Kurt and Kyle Busch raced them, and Chase and Dale Jr. And we even have a picture in the Speedway Club in Charlotte of Jim France driving a Legends car. So it was invented in order to give a young fan the chance to kind of go out and get their start, just like they would in any other sport. And so we're actually the largest manufacturer of race cars in the world through US Legends. So when they race all over the world, it's actually called US Legends Cars International because they do race internationally. And then we also operate Speedway Children's Charities, which makes an impact on children in need in all the markets where we operate facilities. And it was founded by our founder, Bruton Smith, to honor his infant son who passed away.
Well, it sounds like Speedway Motorsports has a huge reach. And the other day I had the opportunity to talk to Ed Clark, who is the former president of the Atlanta Motor Speedway. And he said when he started out, Atlanta was the only track that SMI owned at the time. And or no, they didn't own Atlanta yet. I think Charlotte
outside of Charlotte. Our chairman built Charlotte Motor Speedway, so that's always the home. But Atlanta was definitely an early acquisition. And I actually talked to Ed yesterday, and he said you did a great job, and he really enjoyed being on the show.
Well, I'm glad he told me a lot of good stuff about you. He gave you a good report, said that I would love talking to you. So hopefully that comes true. My next question for you is more you-centered. How did your career start? Were you always a race fan? Was it just something you happened upon? And how did you get your start at SMI?
Actually, I grew up in Reading, Pennsylvania, where Roger Penske has his trucking empire was based there, and did have a lot of his open wheel racing there. And so growing up, I was probably more of an IndyCar fan, watching on Memorial Day, watching the Indy 500, and was aware of NASCAR. But it was actually really the NASCAR video games that I got me involved, and big gamer growing up. And that's really what taught me who drove what cars, and the sponsors and the manufacturers and the drivers, but then also gave me a little bit of understanding of how the cars actually work, because there were so many interesting feedback dynamics. So you could see that front right tire going from black to green to yellow to red as it wore out, and you had to decide where you're going to pit. You could kind of feel the car start to move around and lose its optimal line. So that's when I really got interested in the sport. Then I went to school in Chapel Hill, and obviously in the heart here of NASCAR country, and definitely got more exposure there. Basketball was a kind of the sport I came up in. I was a student manager at North Carolina. Then I got my master's at Georgia Southern University. And again, saw more racing, but worked in the athletic department there. And then I was with three different NBA franchises, and started out down in Orlando with the Magic, and then went to the Rockets, and finally the Hornets. And when the original Hornets left Charlotte, that's where I got connected into the racing business. And I've always been a fan of big events. Always have enjoyed spectacles, and arguably NASCAR is one of the biggest spectacles in the world. So love the business model, and got to know Marcus Smith, who then was running the corporate sales department. Obviously, his father, Bruton Smith, the founder of the company. So just over last month was my 20th anniversary with the company. So 20 years ago, Marcus and I kind of started working together, and I went from there to, as Marcus kind of ascended, I kind of followed behind him and ran our corporate sales department, and then moved into the role of chief strategy officer. And last January, took over as chief operating officer. So basically, help Marcus and his family run the business well, and take a lot of his vision and ideas, and execute them, work with all of our general managers and the different leaders we have here within the organization, to make sure we can deliver a great experience, a remarkable experience for the fans and everybody who comes out to our events.
Well, I like that you mentioned NASCAR gaming in that, and it's kind of sad that I don't know how much you keep up with NASCAR gaming right now in the modern era, but unfortunately, right now we haven't had a new game in a few years, and we're kind of in a dead spot. Hopefully, iRacing can fix that. But I like that you mentioned that. So many fans of my generation mention that too, and not all of them go on to be the chief operating officer of Speedway Motorsports, but who knows? The next COO of your company could be, playing NASCAR Thunder 2002 or whatever right now. But I love that you
Yeah,
mentioned that, and
yeah, no, it's been
it
a
does
real
have a big effect.
passion of mine, and I think really the so important in bringing young fans to the sport. And whether you look at William Byron, who literally went from racing on iRacing to driving the 24 car for Hendrick Motorsports, it's one of the rare video game experiences that the inputs are exactly the same as what you actually do in the real world. So you can get as good as you want at pressing that X button or moving that controller in Madden or NBA 2K or FIFA. I guess now ESPN FC or EAFC is the new name. But that really isn't going to help you on the soccer pitch or on the basketball court or on the football field. But as we saw during the pandemic, a driver is, actually the steering wheel, the gas, the brake, those are the same inputs that he's using when he's driving an actual race car. And so it really, connected with me. And then one of the early opportunities I had was to get involved with iRacing and licensing our speedways and putting them into, they hate when we call it a game. So when we put it into the simulation, but also wanted to make sure that we had our US Legends cars. And if you sign up for the iRacing service, you have a choice to go down the kind of the open wheel path or the stock car path. And if you choose a stock car path, you actually start driving a US Legends car as kind of your first where you get experience and work your way up. So making sure that those experiences are in the game were really important, and really excited that the team at iRacing has gotten that license, and they've done a great job putting out some console dirt games. And I'm really looking forward to them bringing their expertise to the consoles and making sure that we do have some good console games, and most importantly that they're also networkable, so you can get online and play with your friends, because that's a big part of gaming these days.
Yeah, iRacing's always done a great job, and I can't wait to see what they come out with here. What is the best thing for you about going into work every day? Is it just the racing? Is it the people? Is there just one part of your day that you really love? What's the best part of working for Speedway Motorsports?
The challenging thing you learn in sports is that if you really love the sport, you're not going to see much of it, because you're there to make sure that everybody else is having a great time. So I relish the opportunities when I can sit back, and a lot of times it's when I'm bringing a new fan, somebody who hasn't been. I'm hosting somebody at the track, and I can sit and watch the race and see the sport through a newcomer's eyes. That's always really exciting. But at the end of the day, it's really all about the people and the team that we have here. And we're going through our end of the year reviews right now, and I'm getting to meet one-on-one with our general managers. We have different, functional leads who lead marketing or ticketing, corporate sales, sitting down with them. And it's all about the team and the teammates that we have here and the culture that we've built. And credit to Marcus and his brothers for giving us the resources and having the faith and commitment and trust in the team to really build a culture that people really enjoy coming and working together. And that's by far the most satisfying part. It's really fun when you can come and spend a significant part of your workday or your day. I mean, 8 hours, a third of your day is probably going to be spent around the people that you work with.
Well, I think it's great that you mentioned those people, and because without people, you guys couldn't do what you do. There you go.
Sorry about that.
Without people, you couldn't own 12, 13.
Well, it's just a building. It's a big old asphalt circle or asphalt road course, and it's a grandstand, and it's really not the experience that people make it work. Their creativity, their energy, their hospitality, their friendliness, all those things, I think, really that's what you remember when you go to the race, is the people that you go with and the people that you meet when you're there. That's the great part about the sport.
Yeah, I think NASCAR is definitely tops, at least in my mind. And I haven't had a ton of experience doing other things in other sports like what I'm doing right now. But from what I can tell, a lot of the people in this industry are just so welcoming. And, whether you're a newcomer in journalism, as a driver, in a role like yours, in a corporate role, the people are just some of the best in sports. My last question for you, sir, is this, and it's probably a difficult one to choose from because, like you said, you've been with the company for over 2 decades now. But is there one memory in your mind that really sticks out more than any others, and you point to that at the end of your career and you can say, this is the one I'll always remember?
Well, there's a thing called recency bias where we tend to put an inordinate amount of weight on the things that happened to us most recently. But I have to say, the experience at North Wilkesboro Speedway has been, something that I think everybody involved will always remember. And there's a couple moments in that journey that even led up to the actual All-Star weekend. But that summer before, when we had Dale Jr. and the tour there on a night in August, and we had 20,000 people show up and wait in long lines. But everybody, the smile on everybody's face and the energy and excitement, and just like they couldn't believe they were back at North Wilkesboro watching racing. And then the crazy idea to host the All-Star race there, and to then see Jessica Hickenshire and the rest of the team really go out and execute that at a really high level, and just such a great weekend, and to see the impact it's had on that community. I mean, the event itself was great, but really the energy, to see the enthusiasm and the pep in the step of the residents of Wilkes County was really cool. And then the other one that will stand out would be the All-Star race at Bristol during the pandemic. That was the first live in-person sporting event to be held coming out of the pandemic. And it's amazing. You can fit 25,000 people in a venue that seats 165,000 and still safely space everybody. And driver suits and cars are actually really good protection against a virus, and all the work that the entire industry put together to say, yes, we can come back, we can put on a live event, and to see the fans come. And we had 0 cases of COVID that were traced back to that event. So to do it, to provide entertainment that everybody was just so hungry for, to do it safely, to put on the entertainment, and just to have the energy that we had missed for so long of the fans being back in the stands. Yes, we did racing at Charlotte and Darlington without fans, but that's when you really realize how important fans are to the experience. It just wasn't the same. Obviously not the same being there. It wasn't the same watching on TV when it was just the competition. So fans really make the sport great. So those are the two that stand out when you ask that question for me.
When you talk about recency bias in North Wilkesboro, I had the chance to talk with Stephen Wilson from Save the Speedway a few weeks ago, and he said, I think that's something you can call recent, but you also can't call it too recent, because when you ask most people, it was like stepping back in time, back to 1996 or 86 or '66. It was just like stepping back in time with how well y'all put North Wilkesboro back together in that track. And its story is actually the subject of our upcoming Christmas movie, which I encourage all you guys to watch on December 25th. That was my last question for you, sir. Thank you so much for joining the show, and thank you so much for what you do. And like you said earlier, getting new fans in, the racing that a lot of these SMI tracks are providing, especially the intermediates, how well they've raced with the next gen car is just, it's great to see the intermediate tracks being revitalized. Short tracks and road courses are always entertaining as well. And thank you and the whole team for all the work that you do and keeping this great sport alive week in and week out.
Well, I appreciate it. We're nothing without fans. I just encourage everybody, get to a race in 2024. Make that a New Year's resolution. It doesn't have to be a Speedway Motorsports facility. Make sure you're supporting your local track. If you can get to a cup race, fantastic. If you get to one of our facilities, fantastic. But racing only survives if fans continue to support it. And there's an awful lot of racetracks out there that are really being challenged. Real estate prices are going through the roof. And if you're a promoter, that's the biggest threat is somebody comes and offers you a really, really large sum of money to buy that land and the racing goes away. But that doesn't happen if we all go to the track and we all support our tracks and we support the sport we love.
Absolutely. And I did my best to try to help in that, at least in some small way. We talked to a ton of short track owners and promoters and GMs this past summer, talked to my local short track owner, and actually got to go to my local short track for the first time. And it's a great experience. And like you said, racing doesn't exist with all the great fans, including yourself. I think we can probably still count you as a race fan. I still, consider myself a race fan, even more so than a writer or a podcaster, whatever the heck it is I'm doing here. So, but thank you for joining the show and continuing to support our sport.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan. Love watch it every week. I love the drama, love the excitement. And then once you get to know the people involved, it becomes extra special. So appreciate your time. Appreciate you having me on and continued success.